Remember the Nightingale, Chapter 14. The heavy rain stopped mid-morning and left behind warm and humid temperatures. Encouraged by the dry conditions, Evariste and Mamrie started chores early, feeding Charlotte and the other cows, harvesting beans, and walking to the well for fresh water. "There's dung in the corner of the pasture," Pappy says, as he watches them approach from the path, pointing behind him. Mamrie's face lights up and Evariste laughs when she runs to the porch to put her jug of water down. She grabs the dung bucket and takes off towards the back of the field. "She's gonna sell art one day, Pappy," Evariste says. Pappy sighs a heavy sigh, shaking his head. His cheeks are hollow and his eyebrows bushy. His calloused hands built the hut years ago, and built the fence for the pasture, and taught Evariste how to birth calves. He slaughtered animals to feed the family, and once, when Mamrie was sick enough to die, he sold a homemade mixture of sugar, sorghum, and cannabis to get enough francs for Mamrie's medicine. It's not the only drugs Pappy familiar with. He chews cat. He says it keeps him happy. Mama says if she ever catches Evariste or Mamrie using any of what Pappy has, she'll beat them blue. When she told him, Gaeton shrugged, nodding. A man does what he has to do to provide for his family. Evariste lowers her jug of fresh water to the straw mat outside the door. The beans are harvested, the cattle are cared for, and Mama has food cooking behind the hut. She lowers herself to sit on the ground, soaking in the sun and thankful it's not raining. The cloudless sky above her looks like the sea, and the Rwanda hills stretching in front of her give her joy. Evariste's eye catches sight of the drum Gaeton made for her. Smiling, she pulls it to her. She swats a fly away from her face and gives the drum 2 quick pats with one hand, then 3 with the other, creating a rhythm. She dances her shoulders and tips her head back and forth. Visions of a dance to pair with the rhythm flood her mind. "You should write them down," Gaeton encourages her. "Write the steps out for the dances you want to teach your students. Give them a name." She laughed at him. "I'll lose the paper before the school is built." Quietly, Gaeton returned, "Then give them to me. I'll hold them for you." Evariste, Gaeton's deep voice stops the drum beat. His lanky flame walking towards her on the dirt path makes her heart race. His cousin, Grace, runs ahead of him. Smiling, she lifts a hand. "Hello, what do you have there?" Grinning, he slings a linen sack off his shoulder, dropping it on the ground. "I've got a few things for Mamrie's cave. I thought we could add the supplies to it. Play a song?" "Mamrie," Evariste calls, and when her sister's head lifts, she beckons her closer. "I love this drum," Evariste adds. "I'm gonna need more." "I'll make you more." Gaeton's voice is quiet and low. "Good afternoon, Gaeton," Mamrie greets, putting the basket of fresh dung on the ground and pouring water over her hands. "Gaeton has supplies for the cave," Evariste explains. "Grace tagged along. Should we go?" Mamrie's dark eyes light up. Only a year older than her, Grace is taller than Mamrie and very different. Mamrie's fearless nature is tempered by Grace's obedient, quiet one. Still, the 2 girls have been friends since birth. It takes time to reach the cave. Mid-afternoon sunlight blares down, making Evariste's cheeks glow. Mamrie and Grace run ahead, their sandaled feet kicking up red dirt as they race through the tree line and into the forest. "Mama has been making healing herbs today," Gaeton says, tipping his head to look at Evariste. The short, tight curls that lie along the top of her head make her slender neck longer and her deep chocolate eyes bigger. Beautiful. The word whispers through Gaeton's mind, and he remembers she wishes she were. "Is someone ill?" Evariste asked, frowning. Muhira is well known as a traditional healer. As Achilles is well regarded as a midwife, Muhira's potions heal many people. Since her first husband's death, though, creating the herbal remedies hasn't been as important to her, and she only gathers the herbs when someone is ill. Gaeton shrugs and shakes his head. "Not that I know of. She says it's good just to be ready." "To be ready?" Evariste's voice rises. "She's helping the Tutsi women share information. Do you think that's what she's doing? Getting remedies ready in case there is war? We're all getting ready for war, Evariste. The brush is thick, but they can't hear the creek nearby. Eucalyptus and cypress trees rise into the air, blocking sunlight and offering cooler temperatures. The rain hasn't yet dried from the forest. Clear droplets can be seen on jade leaves. Small puddles for Memory and Grace to jump in come along frequently, and the ground is soft. The sound of their shoes slushing through the forest makes Evariste laugh. I should have bought the drum. We'd have a whole orchestra in here. It's a lot cooler here, Grace adds. Can't wait to see the cave. I don't know why I haven't seen it yet. When she nudges Memory giggles. Well, I don't come here very often. It's really just for in case we need it. And I don't think you will. I hope not. Evariste steals a glance at Gaeton and catches him watching her. He reaches out and takes her elbow to help her over a fallen log. They're at the embankment. The cave is nearby. What did you bring, Gaeton? Memory asked, moving brush and limbs away from the entrance of the cave. Helping her, Gaeton answers, a few things. The cave is undisturbed. Blankets, dried food, a lantern, and matches are stored in baskets that line the back. You added canvas? Gaeton asked with a quick smile as he notices the art materials piled beside the food baskets. Memory's cheeks flush as her shoulders lift. Well, if we're going to be stuck in a cave for days on end, we should at least have something to do. It's a good idea. I want to see. Memory moves closer to Gaeton as he pulls the sack off his shoulder again and opens it. He begins to distribute things. Small jar of honey, 4 potatoes, a small pouch of maize, and then he pulls out a wooden box. It was small and obviously handmade. Instead of holding it out, he looks down at it, contemplating, then takes a deep breath. Sit down. The girls sit around him and Gaeton taps the box with his fingers. Cautiously, he holds it out to Memory. Go on, open it. Inside is a machete, a small one, 12 inches, with a steel blade curved at the end. It has been hand-carved. Gaeton. Evariste's voice holds surprise and fear. He looks at her and reaches out, takes her hand and squeezes. Trust me. Looking back at Memory, Gaeton says, the purpose of this cave is to keep you safe if war breaks out. Food, all the supplies you have here are good. They will help. But if it is a war, you need to be able to protect yourself. So I made this. If anyone tries to hurt you, you can fight back with this. Memory, usually cheerful and energetic, swallows heavily. I don't know how to use it. Your pappy would be here with you, probably. He'd be able to use it for you. But I will show you how to hold it, and I'll give you some advice on how to use it if you'd like. This is to stay in this cave, nowhere else. If I find out that you're playing with this, or if you're using it at home, I will take it away. Memory nods. Okay. I want to learn how, Grace says. You don't need to know how, because you're not Tootsie. Although he doesn't say it, Evariste's heart skips a beat, because she knows why Grace wouldn't need to know how to use the machete. They spend time learning how to hold it. He makes the girls promise not to touch it again until and unless they need it, then helps them store it safely in one of the baskets. As Memory and Grace ready to leave the cave and join friends for soccer game, Gaeton touches Evariste's arm. Walk with me? He asks. Something I want to show you. Do you think it was necessary to give her a machete? Fear lurks in Evariste's eyes. She pulls her bottom lip between her teeth, using her right hand to scratch gently at her left shoulder. The forest floor is littered with leaves, puddles, dirt, small tree limbs, and insects. She catches sight of a small colobus monkey leaping from one tree to the other, the distinct black and white fur standing out amongst the jade green of the forest. Still walking near the edge of the creek, the sound of the water rushing by gives her comfort. The sun plays peekaboo with the treetops, sending streams of play off the leaves into the ground. They don't have a true path, so Gaeton uses his own machete to hack brush away from them. He makes a sound and pauses to look over his shoulder at her. I want her to stay safe. Evariste pulls her bottom lip between her teeth again and nods. Do you trust me, Lucy? Well, yes, of course. She won't misuse it. She's scared. It'll help her feel prepared, and that will help her feel less scared. Evariste inhales deeply, nods, her eyes skittering away. Where are we going? He smiles, faces forward again, and clears a small opening for them to keep walking. It's not much further. I found it several weeks ago. I think you'll like it. They come to a small hill and Gaeton stops, sheathing his machete. Okay, it's just over there. Give me your hand. Evariste curls her fingers into Gaeton's palm and lets him help her up the hill. As they emerge from the forest tree line, they stare at a wide open meadow surrounded by forest trees. Unhindered now by limbs or leaves, sunlight beams down in full force, casting the meadow in warm golden hues. Evariste inhales sharply. Oh, she breathes, pulling her fingers from Gaeton's hand and walking deeper into the open meadow. She laughs suddenly, spreads her arms open wide and spins. Covering her mouth with her fingers, her eyes widening, she says, This is beautiful. I didn't know this was here. It is beautiful, isn't it? Yes. Oh, I love how the trees wrap around it. It's like it's a private... She laughs. It makes me want to dance. Gaeton chuckles. I thought you might say that. My school. Oh, it's perfect. Can you see it? Can you see it, Gaeton? Instead of having a crowded room inside for shows, there could be logs all around here. She holds a finger out towards the forest line and spins around. Logs all around the meadow for people to sit on. The theater could be outside. She uses both hands to cover her mouth, while Gaeton, smiling, lowers himself to sit on the damp grass. Over there, Evariste exclaims, skipping towards the south side of the meadow. The building could be here. It's so big, Gaeton. It's plenty big enough. The school could be here. I'd only need one room, a room to teach classes. Don't you see? The meadow is the theater. She laughs again, clapping her hands. Her excitement makes Gaeton chuckle. Come sit with me, my dancer, he says. From the sack he's been carrying all day, he pulls a pencil and a pad of paper. Help me draw it, he says. Oh, I can't. Mammy, I'll draw. You tell me what's where. The school itself, it's over there on the south side of the meadow. She shrieks, a smile splitting her face, her eyes so bright they outshine the sun. Joy radiates from her. Yes, it's there. And, is it circular? Yes. She claps again, laughing. Gaeton makes a hut on the bottom corner of the paper. He erases it and makes it larger. The inside. Is there one room or two? Two. One for checking in, a lobby, and then one for the lessons. Glass from top to bottom of one wall in the classroom. A smooth beam or bar stretched across the glass. She looks around, her eyes scanning the meadow from one side to the other. Oh, it's so beautiful here. An hour passes, and then another, with the two of them drawing the school and the outdoor theater with seating and a stage. As daylight begins to dwindle, they still talk. Gaeton's page is a full sketch and includes preferred materials for the roofing, the walls, the stage. He sketches a light box across the page. We're missing one thing, he says. What's the name of your school, Lucy? She purses her lips and falls against him, resting her head against his shoulder. I don't know. I've thought about a name, but I can't think of one that feels right. Do you remember when you danced for me? It was getting dark and stars were starting to show up. She smiles. Yes. It's one of my favorite memories. One of my favorite memories is after I danced, she says coyly, and he chuckles, bending his head down to look at her. Is that right? He asks. Yes. And why is that? Well, you wanted me to move closer to you. I always want you close, Evariste. She smiles. Sometimes I can feel your heartbeat, and that's what I like the most. Silence stretches between them before Gaeton takes his finger and gently traces the bridge of her nose. I also love how you sound just like the nightingale. When the boys were bothering me and I heard that song, I knew you were close. I just knew it. I recognized it as you. Gaeton moves the pad of paper to the ground and gently moves his arm around her, pulling her closer to him. He shifts until her head lies on his chest and his arms steal around her waist. They watch a rabbit scamper across the meadow and a red-capped tailor bird fly past. The sun's dipping closer to the horizon, painting the sky in pinks and purples. Thank you, Eva says softly, raking her fingernails lightly across his arm. Gaeton responds by tightening his arms around her. I feel it again. Your heartbeat, she whispers. He rests his chin on the top of her head and watches the horizon. I know the name of the school. She sits up and turns to smile at him, a smile dancing across her face. What's that? The Nightingale's Rhythm and Heartbeat. Gaeton nods, picks up the paper and writes the name of the school in the box at the top. Gently, he reaches out, taking her chin between two fingers, and tips it up. The kiss is soft, quick sips as he slides his palm down from her chin to her neck. When shivers pepper her skin and she doesn't move away, Gaeton slowly melds their mouth until he feels her hands slip up and around his neck. His heart races when she finally pulls away, his palm pressing her head down to his chest again. The air feels tender and poignant when she lifts her face, her eyes searching his, and softly asks, Again? Gaeton, bending his head, promises, Anytime, my dancer. The sun's gone down by the time Gaeton suggests heading back. It can't be gone too long after dark without arising questions. Gaeton holds her hand as they traverse the darkened forest, mindful of snakes now slithering about the forest floor. Gaeton hears it first, the commotion. What is that? Evariste asks, frowning. They stop walking to hear better, and the sounds of people shouting can be heard. That's Pappy, she says, fear hitching her voice. Come on. When they emerge from the tree line, the first person they see is Imama. Evariste, you're safe. What's happening? What's going on? We don't know. They're going to make some sort of announcement on the radio. Gaeton's eyes survey the group of people gathering at the door of Evariste's hut. Gently, he squeezes her hand. It's all right, he promises. Together, they join the group. Mamrie sits in Pappy's lap. Grace is on the floor. There are neighbors, men, women, and children, standing and sitting around an old radio. Mihira holds Akalisa's hands. Murmurs of fear and anger and confusion riddle the group. The radio plays a static advertisement. The Hutu Power Radio, the HML, announced 3 days ago that something big was coming. Joseph talked about it being almost time. Gaeton swallows hard and feels a knot in his stomach as he and Evariste walk to stand at the edge of the group. A knot of fear because it will mean Evariste might be in danger, but also a knot of something else. Standing behind Evariste, sensing the fear in her face and on Mamrie's, he feels sick to admit it, but excitement twists with the fear. He was just a boy. Mark hadn't done anything wrong to anyone. They killed him just because he wasn't Tutsi. When will someone pay for that? He can feel hope struggling to break through at the thought that the answer is maybe now. Static buzzes through the radio as the advertisement fades away. People tap each other to be quiet. We've just been informed that a little over an hour ago, just before 8:20 p.m., President Habyarimana's plane, which was preparing to land at Kigali Airport, was struck by surface-to-air missiles. The plane crashed into the presidential quarters. President Habyarimana and President of Burundi, Cyprien, and all of the crew have been pronounced dead. This appears to be a targeted assassination of President Habyarimana, and an investigation will follow. We will bring you all the latest. Again, I repeat, President Habyarimana has been assassinated today, April 6th, 1994. God help us.